Welcome to another OCD Recovery Instagram Live. I'm going to be talking a little more on the topic of ROCD because I covered it earlier in the week. One of the most popular OCD themes that it latches to. And obviously the main reason being for that is that with OCD, it's going to specifically pick things like feelings because those are something that it can manipulate, because feelings are something we can't see right in front of us to sort of get it to determine between sort of a black and white answer. If I have a bottle of wine in front of me and a box of chocolates, I can tell one's a box of chocolates and one's a bottle of wine. But in relation to my thinking in my head, it's very difficult to tell that kind of thing because it's a feeling, is sort of uncertain, and once you try and get involved in it and try and move it around or try and do anything with it, it very quickly shifts out of the position. So if you're trying to lock down a sensation or a feeling, you're instantly got a problem, because it's going to pull away. Because once it knows that you're scared of it, once it knows that you really don't want it, it's going to start turning up the heat. So it's going to, with ROCD, as soon as it notices that you're bothered by the fact that you want to feel a certain sensation, it's going to pull that sensation. It's going to create the opposite effect. So if you're trying to really feel love, you're going to not feel love. And if you're trying to, whatever sensation, the same in HOCD, if you're trying to really feel, with HOCD, the person trying to work out if they're gay. If they're trying to work out if they're gay, it's going to convince them that they are. It's going to do the opposite. And if they're trying to sense for a sensation that they're straight, you're not going to feel a sensation. So it's going to particularly do that. That's the nature of it. That's what it tries to do. That's how it tries to manipulate things. So you need to be aware of that, for one. That's a very key component of our OCD. It's going to create all those manipulations, and it's going to feel very quick and instant. It's always going to feel like you need to work out an answer right now to the problem, and that's not possible. And it's always going to tell you something's real and action needs to be taken imminently. The other thing with ROCD, the feelings are going to feel so numb. You really will feel disconnected from the person that you're trying to feel connected with. And anything that you find frustrating about that individual, it's going to feel like that's on steroids. So it's going to feel very much that that's the worst agitating thing ever, or they're the most stupid, the most annoying, the most frustrating, the most unbearable, and all these kinds of things together that creates that sensation. And I think it's very, very important for people to realize that this is what this disorder does, because if you don't, you will just feel ROCD obviously can pick anything, so it can make you feel disconnected from other humans and so on, and you won't be able to see exactly what's going on there, because that's how sneaky it is. It's really trying to get into those things that you really care about. So watching that is key. Being observant of that is key, but leaving it to just play out, imagining it just like sort of a cloud in your head, or just weather that's there, and it's just whether it's stormy, bright, happy, good, sad, whatever. You leave it to be so, but you're not getting involved in what's going on, because that's the problem. It's you're trying so much to change that's causing the problem, whereas you actually just need that to be there and be present, and you just live through it. The problem is when you're getting involved in all the manipulation of what's going on in the mind. So that's the problem. If you think about people's relationships, an older couple might have been together 20 or 30 years. They're not constantly testing how in love they are. They're not going to necessarily feel that all the time, right? You're definitely not going to feel the sensation of love all the time. They may be able to get that sensation now and again when they look for it, but that's because OCD is not trying to manipulate that. But when you're trying to look for it and get an answer to it, it's going to just slip through your fingers. So in the last video, I talked specifically about learning to accept that, see that it's not the end of the world if you do not get what you're trying to go for, that you can actually be fine just on your own, content, even if you weren't in a relationship or in the relationship that wasn't ideal for you. So there's all of that acceptance that comes into it, which are key components that you learn from the books on the reading list, specifically the first book, How to Stubbornly Refuse to Make Yourself Miserable About Anything, by the founder of CBT, Albert Ellis, really breaks that down. And in The Myth of Self-Esteem helps with that as well, because it helps to paint the picture of unconditional self-acceptance, which is very important in this whole situation. So I think that's at the core of our OCD. You are going to have to get used to being in a position where you don't know if you are in love, whether you are not going to know if you can tolerate this frustrating annoyance that they're causing long term, whether they are some sort of mannerisms that you dislike are going to carry on and play out, and you may overall find it more beneficial if you're in another relationship. You're not going to know that. You're not going to know that 100%. You're just going to have to roll with, you're in this relationship. It may feel bumpy. It may not be ideal. The grass is always going to appear greener in our OCD, as it will with all OCDs. If I only just get out of this, if I move on, if I get into another relationship, then I will never have that problem. But I see people who go from divorce to divorce before they come into me, and they realize, yes, I've given up so much because our OCD has been calling the shots without me being aware of its manipulations, its hijacking in the brain. So it very much hijacks, okay? So OCD is going to want you to control all your partner's thinking, and sort of you'll get extra frustrated because we tend to say very quick phrases to ourselves with OCD suffering that we say and we don't notice we're saying. So you'll say something maybe like very quickly to yourself, I've got anxiety, I've just getting over this one theme, and now my partner's doing this shit which is bloody annoying me, and if only he didn't do that, then I would be fine, and I've been through so much, and da-da-da-da-da. You've quickly got a cycle that's now ramping up inside. We say these phrases very quickly. It's very fast phrases said to ourselves in all types of emotional suffering that we say very quickly at the beginning without even being aware that that is what's occurring. So that's what's going to happen with our OCD. You'll be watching like a hawk their behaviours. Oh, why did he or she have to do that? Why did she have to say that? Why did she do that thing? And it's going to pick things like, it's going to pick silly jokes, annoyance, maybe stupid things they do on social media, silly gestures that they do that you think, if only they didn't do that, that would put me off them or turn me off them, or they say a silly thing, or they do something they think to look cool that you don't think looks cool, and all these things add up, and until you get to a point where you're like, right, I've just got to get out of this, I've got to get out, I've got this unbearable, and then you've got that situation occurring. So I think with all these situations, it's about realizing that humans do have any kind of sensation and thoughts and ideas about their relationships and things they're involved in, and these things aren't perfect. These things are just how life rolls. And we accept them and we make peace with them. And we have to roll with all different kinds of changes and discomfort. No relationship's ever going to be perfect. You have these dreams of these relationships that you think will be perfection, which certainly aren't, which is an idea that you've conjured up that, it will be perfect if this da-da-da-da-da occurred, or they were like this, and then my ex seems now in a brilliant light because of ... It's always going to seem like that. It's always going to seem like the ex is better, because OCD is always going to highlight the thing you can't have and turn down the thing you do, or vice, depending on which way it wants to get in. If something's in the past, it wants to go for that because the past can't be changed. Something you can change right now is not so much a problem because you can change it. So it's looking to manipulate those things based on its agenda of what's going to keep you stuck and keep you in a sort of fear of fear cycle. And let's have a look if there's any specific questions here to this theme. Will OCD go away on its own? Certainly not. It does not go away on its own in chronic format. We have to work to get better. You won't just sort of get older and it will die off. We work on it, change our relationship with it. That's where recovery is possible. Bring it down, turn down the notch until we can turn it right down so you can't notice the difference. But it's certainly not just going to get better with time alone. Usually gets worse if it's just left completely, not to like, it kind of takes leaps at times, but it tends to, it will either sort of plateau, or sometimes the person can get more anxious. Then the fear will come in, oh my God, what if I get so bad I can't function? We have to take that risk. So it tends to sort of plateau off in stages. A lot of questions here about, does OCD this, does OCD that, does this lead to this, does this lead to that? And all that kind of stuff is relating specifically to fear of fear. So if you watch the videos on this channel on fear of fear, those will specifically get into that. What tend to be the common core beliefs that sustain ROCD? The common core beliefs that sustain ROCD tend to be it would be unbearable to not be with a partner. It'd be unbearable to ruin a relationship. It would be unbearable to be with a partner I don't love. It would be unbearable to waste my life in a relationship that's not great. It would be unbearable to make a mistake in my relationship. It would be unbearable to live a fake life in my relationship, those kinds of things. And then followed by, I really mustn't do that. It's like a universal law that I must not let that happen. Okay, I think that covers the main points I wanted to raise on ROCD. I'll be back on here later covering, not today, in the week, covering more on guilt OCD, but you can check out Oliver's video that he's just done on guilt OCD, which is a good one on that subject. I'll be covering more on that later in the week, and religious OCD I will be covering probably in about 2 weeks' time as one of the next topics to cover. All right, guys, I will see you later. Take it easy.